Analyzing ROI, or return on investment, on my best rental property, and I'm gonna go through the actual real numbers. Some investors think that rentals mean razor thin margins for years on hand, hands-on maintenance and midnight calls. I've owned rental properties for over 21 years, and I can tell you if you do it right, none of those things are true. I own a lot of rental properties today, and I've picked one that I want to run through the numbers and all the financials and show you behind the curtain. Guys, when it comes down to it, you've got to do some deals to make some money. I get it, but you also need to keep some deals for yourself. One of those things you can do is some strategies like BRRRR strategy that can help you get into these types of properties. This specific property is one that we found and we thought would make a good rental property. And this is why. It's in that median price range. It's in the good neighborhood, but it's not in an amazing neighborhood, but it's not in a bad neighborhood. So it's one of those places. My thing is I like to have my wife be able to walk down the street at night alone and feel comfortable that she would be safe. If that's the case, it's a neighborhood I want to invest in. This is a pretty classic property because it's a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom, which is what I like. I did do some fix-ups on the property when I originally purchased it, and I've done some fix-ups along the way. I'm gonna go through the cash flows, I'm gonna go through the analysis and show you behind the curtain. So this just gives you a little, I don't wanna give you the full property address, but this is kind of get you going. So right now, this property rents for $1,500 a month. So each month, my tenant pays $1,500. My mortgage on the property right now is $520 a month, but keep in mind, part of that $520, and I would say $50 to $75, I could do the math, but part of that is paying down the principal. So each month my principal is going down. My hazard insurance on the property is $36. Keep in mind, I don't take care of the contents for the tenant. We ask them to get renter's insurance to make sure, and they can choose to or choose not to, but that's just to cover the property if something happened to it. Taxes on the property are $126 per month. These are all monthly figures. I like to break down, even though you pay taxes annually, I like to break it down to a monthly so we can determine a cash flow. Utilities are $0. No, there is a cost to utilities, but my tenant pays all utilities, including water, sewer, and garbage. This is not common. Lots of landlords pay the water, sewer, and garbage, which I think is crazy, because if the tenant uses more water, it's gonna cost you more money if they turn the sprinklers off. So I don't like to have tenants. I wanna have people that are good stewards of my assets, that are gonna take care of things, and part of that is being responsible in all areas. If you take all that out, it's $818 is what I'm netting per month every single time that tenant takes care of it. But I also have some other advantages. The property typically goes up in value. I'm getting some tax write-offs. I'm getting the amortization where the tenant's paying it down. Rents increase over time. And so I'm getting a lot of benefits here. But there's something else. I don't consider that my true cash flow, because I like to have some savings. I like to make sure that we have some things if things go wrong. So first off, capital improvements. I plan on 5% of the rent per month in capital improvements, okay? So that's $75 per month. I also like to have money for repairs. 5% of the rent is $75, and vacancy is 5% as well. So I plan on these things. So I set money aside for capital improvements, repairs, and vacancies every single month, because it's not if these things are gonna happen, it's when these things are gonna happen. You are gonna have to do things. Now, let's talk about what these are. Capital improvements is doing something to the property that's gonna last a long time. For example, if you have to replace the furnace, if you have to replace the water heater, if you have to replace the roof, those things will happen. So make sure you're setting money aside to do that. Repairs is something like putting in paint, repainting, or putting in new carpet and those types of things. Vacancy is when you have a tenant that leaves and you're gonna have to make that mortgage payment. And so I set money aside for each one of those. So now that is all my money, but I know I'm gonna have to invest that into the property at a later date. I just don't know exactly when. So I say my real net on this property is $593 a month. Now, I purchased this property for $128,000. I put a down payment of $44,400. My rehab on the property was $15,000. My total debt is $83,600. That makes my cash on cash return 16.53%. Cash on cash return is basically saying, how much have I I invested in the property, which is the $44,000 plus the $15,000. I divide that by the net up here, which is 818 times 12. So you take 818 times 12 months. That gives you an annual figure. We can just do some math here if this can help you guys out. So I want to make sure you understand this. I'm taking my net after expenses, and I'm timesing that by 12, okay? So that gives me, that's how much I'm making annually. Then I divide that amount that I'm making annually, divided by the amount of money I put in the property. So I put 44,000 in the property and I put 15,000. Now, you can do deals without putting money into the property. Those are called BRRRR deals, and that gives me 16%. As soon as you change this into percentage, then you've got it. Now my cap rate, this is something a little bit different. This is helping me compare a rental property to rental property. So what this basically is doing is it is taking that same thing where we've got the net right here, the D19, that's the same thing, but then we're dividing it by the purchase price plus the rehab. And that is telling us, that helps me compare. So I want to know if something's a good property or not so good of a property compared to something else. And I do that by determining the cap rate. The cap rate is basically saying, hey, if everything's equal, if you say, hey, once I get my rent, once I pay my stuff, then I can do my cap rate. Now, some people will leave mortgage out of the cap rate. Because it depends on how much money you put into the property and those things. So if you want to do that calculation, you can as well, where you're saying everything except for the mortgage comes in. So that would be 1338. If I'm doing the same thing, I'm going to times that by 12. That gives me my annual return. I'm going to divide my annual return divided by my purchase price plus my down payment plus my rehab is going to give me my full-on cap rate, which is 8.5%, which is another way. The idea with this cap rate is it can allow you to determine property to property, and if you take the mortgage out of it, then financing isn't included. So you're basically saying, how much do I get in rent? What is it gonna cost me? You're not including repairs or vacancy or utilities, but you are saying taxes and insurance, and then you take that times by 12 months, that gives you your annualized, then you divide that by the amount of money you put into the property, whether that's through a loan or a down payment, will give you that cap rate, which basically means if this property was paid off, this is the return you would be getting. So for this specific property, I'd get an 8.57% return when this property was paid off. That's what I'd be getting. Now, if I did that same calculation around another property and it was a 7%, well, 7's lower than 8.5, so my 8.5 is better. Whereas if I get a 10%, that's even better than 8%. It's basically the percentage I should see myself getting once that property is paid off. So that's something you want to take close attention to and know. Like I said, though, there's more than just the rental property and getting the cash flow. I've got the appreciation, I've got the tenant paying down my rent, I've got the upward movement in rental rates and what it's costing. So there's lots of things. Now, one of the things that people find amazing is my renters typically stay for 5 years on average. And I want to show you exactly how I do that. If you want to check out this video, it'll tell you all about it. You'll talk about choosing the right rental properties. It'll talk about the 2 questions to ask on your rental application and how I never get calls at midnight ever. Check out this video. You're going to love it and make it a very profitable day.